You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
We're getting to a point where we're at 20% of the gross domestic product is spent on health care. So $1 out of $5 in this country, it goes to health care.
A trip to the emergency room, the price is at an all-time high, even if you have insurance. Why? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on the rising ER prices in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. In the wake of the Parkland High School massacre, renewed calls tonight for the Sarasota City Commission to join the fight to ban assault-style weapons. Groups like the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence are asking commissioners tonight to pass a ban on assault weapons and universal background checks. A proposed resolution in Sarasota failed in 2016 following the Pulse nightclub shooting because of state preemption laws. At the time, the resolution called for limiting assault weapons to just law enforcement agencies.
I'm here tonight because there's such a groundswell right now of the young people and now other people joining them who are interested in sensible gun laws in this country. And we feel like it has to be from all concerned, the citizens, the local officials, state officials, national officials.
We'll have more on this story coming out tonight at 11. The reality is there are so many guns out there every day. Police have to worry whether the suspect that they are encountering is better armed than they are. Police have now identified the suspect shot by a Sarasota police officer this morning. Police say 35-year-old Thomas Gick is in stable condition and is expected to live after being shot in both legs by Sarasota police officer Anna Marina. Officers allegedly spotted Gick on 12th Street, where there had been a number of burglaries last week. Gick was riding a bike without lights. Police tried to stop him, but he allegedly pulled a gun from his waistband. That's when Officer Arena shot him multiple times in the legs. Detectives say the gun that Gick pulled was a BB gun.
He's been booked on aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer at this point, so he will be in custody once he's cleared from the hospital. But we will review all of the information in those burglaries to see if this individual matches any of those crimes.
Officer Arena has been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. A gruesome murder in Manatee County. A 50-year-old woman was found engulfed in fire in Bradenton early this morning. It happened around 1:15 in a wooded area along 18th Street East. Deputies say a man called to report what was thought to be a body on fire. The woman is now identified as Veronica Polite. A cousin says she was blind and wandered off from her apartment last night before getting into a car. Police say they have persons of interest, but no suspects.
Well, the first thing you do in this type of investigation, you take a look at the victim, find out who the victim has been with, where the last person or where the person was seen last, who was she with, that sort of thing.
The Manatee County Sheriff's Office says Polite had numerous contacts with law enforcement. School resource officers are now in place at all Sarasota County schools. As of today, off-duty law enforcement officers can be found on all Sarasota County elementary school campuses, along with existing SROs at middle and high schools in the district. School resource officers will be in the parking lots when parents drop off and pick up their children in the morning and the afternoon, and will stay visible throughout the school day.
It's definitely a comfort for parents to know that when they send their child to school that there's a police officer there that can respond quickly and immediately if there's an emergency.
The officers in place at elementary schools are temporary. Sarasota County Sheriff Tom Knight is hoping to find a more permanent team for next year and is hiring a school resource deputy for each of the 12 elementary schools in the county. Students at Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School are receiving clear backpacks. The Sun Sentinel reporting Broward County Public Schools were providing the new bags to students who returned to school today. Their superintendent says sports equipment or musical instruments may be carried in non-clear bags, but students should expect those items to be searched. Officers or officials also plan to install metal detectors. 47-year-old Sarasota man is being charged with possession of child pornography. Detectives allegedly found 40 images of child porn on a computer belonging to Gary Moore. Moore has been charged with 40 counts. He has been released on $20,000 bond. And Governor Rick Scott has signed a bill aimed at reducing the number of pythons and other invasive species. The bill, which was approved this month by the legislature, sets up a pilot program targeting pythons and species like the tegu lizards and lionfish. Under the program, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission will be able to enter contracts with people to capture or destroy the species on public lands and in state waters.
We are concerned about the potential impacts it may have on our native wildlife. Some of these species may also impact the habitat that they're in, or other animals that compete with the habitat that they're in.
The FWC plans to advertise opportunities for contractors to partner with the agency beginning this summer to take part in the eradication program. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist, Bob Harrigan, who is finally back from vacation with the first alert forecast. Bob, we missed you.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. It's good to be back here. I'll tell you what, we are looking at delightful weather today. Beautiful weather. Wish I had another day off, but 75 degrees. Lots of sunshine throughout area beaches. Inland areas, there were a few showers that developed today along that sea breeze front, which popped up this afternoon. You can see that sea breeze front worked well inland. Just enough moisture, just enough heating of the day to cause a few showers here and there. Nothing heavy in terms of lightning, but we did have some pretty heavy rainfall into east portions of Manatee County. That has since moved on. One lone shower remains in our viewing area, really just south of Arcadia. That is about it. Producing some moderate rainfall southwest of Arcadia near State Road 17 right now. And some heavier weather to the north along Interstate 4 and also I-75. There's some Doppler indicated hail there earlier. One shower did manage to get west of I-75 near the Tampa area. For us, no rain near the coast. Some pretty impressive rainfall amounts, so inland areas into just south of DeWitt along State Road 64. Some moderate rain there, half an inch at least estimated, and lesser amounts. One lone shower popped up near Northport near I-75 and Toledo Blade Boulevard. Weather headlines read like this: some patchy fog, especially where it rained this evening, and then cold front moves through on Wednesday. There's not much to the front, but it will bring some changes. We'll talk about those changes a little bit. And another front is due to arrive over the weekend. And as far as the forecast goes, we are looking at those winds switching around to more of an easterly direction late tonight. Basically, they're out of the west-northwest, anywhere from 5 to 10 miles an hour, a little stronger inland. But those winds I mentioned will switch around and become a little less as far as that goes. And that will allow some fog to form to start things off tomorrow morning. Temperatures currently pretty nice out there into the mid-70s here right along the coast.
Meanwhile, all those snowbirds who went back to the northeast, snow.
Yeah, you've got there Wisconsin, Minnesota, Chicago, spreading off toward the north, too.
The Rays game today, the Yankees home opener, snowed out.
Snowed out. Sometimes they leave a little too early. Some folks smarter sticking around for a few more weeks.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, what is the reasoning behind emergency room costs going up so much?
There was this big bruise on my friend's face. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to think her own nephew could have hit her.
I didn't want to see it. My mother's bank account was emptied, and a caregiver had taken control of it.
I didn't want to see it. My father's refrigerator. There was hardly anything in it. That's unusual for him.
It's tough to see that a senior citizen is being abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, or financially. Elder abuse is a crime.
So see the signs. Stop the crimes.
The La Musica International Chamber Music Festival, the annual celebration of a distinctive cultural gem in Sarasota, with renowned musicians from around the world. April 9th through April 18th at the Sarasota Opera House. Visit lamusicafestival.org, click on Festival, open tickets, and get your seats now.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
Since 1972, Sleep King has provided quality mattresses and accessories at the best discounted prices available. Top brands like Simmons, Sealy, Serta, Beauty Rest, Eye Comfort, and more. With available free delivery, free financing, and free setup and removal. For a comfortable night's sleep with same-day delivery, even if we have to carry it on our backs. Trust Sleep King of Sarasota. Buy it today, sleep on it tonight.
Rugs as Art. You know the name, you know the building, but do you know what's inside? Yes, Rugs as Art is Florida's #1 area rug superstore. But there is so much more. Amazing furniture, accessories, and art. All this and more. Come see for yourself. You'll love our personal touch and be pleasantly surprised by our affordable prices. Rugs as Art and more. There is so much more to explore.
Check out mysuncoast.com/dining, your guide to the foodie lifestyle.
Emergency room visits are costing you double what they did just 10 years ago. Prices now at an all-time high. Patients go in for life-saving treatment and come out with tens of thousands of dollars worth of bills. What's the astronomical cost of health care? ABC7's Jess Dowdrick investigated. Jess.
Alan, when you're in an emergency situation, the last thing you're thinking about is how much it's going to cost you to go to the emergency room. Getting the help you need is and should be your focus. But be aware, when you're home recovering and that bill comes in the mail, you may just be shocked at how much this potentially life-saving visit will cost you.
I was shocked. I could not believe that for 3 days in the hospital that the bill would be that much.
One day, Bonnie Gottlieb noticed her feet were swelling, so she went to her internist, who immediately sent her to the emergency room.
I actually felt fine, didn't realize that a whole lot was going on.
Gottlieb drove herself to Sarasota Memorial Hospital. She was admitted and spent 3 days there. Gottlieb ended up having a heart ablation. She was released from the hospital on a Friday, and the bill she'd soon get was the furthest thing from her mind.
You just don't know what the cost is going to be until you get the bill in the mail.
When it came, she couldn't believe the high costs.
The total bill was almost $100,000, and I had to pay $114 and change.
Lucky for Gottlieb, her insurance company and Medicare covered 99.9% of the bill. Not everyone is so lucky. Prices for treatment at 7 Suncoast hospitals range drastically. According to the FloridaHealthFinder.gov, Manatee Memorial Hospital has the best rates in the area, averaging between $17,000 and $78,000 for a 4-day stay. At the other end of the spectrum, there's Englewood Community Hospital, which is reportedly the most expensive hospital to go to on the Suncoast. Their prices average from $38,000 to $97,000 for a 3-day stay. It doesn't matter which of these hospitals you go to, the bill won't be cheap.
The emergency room is the most expensive place to access care.
The question is, why?
They have to be ready for the worst case scenario, a gunshot wound or something where an airway needs to be opened or maintained.
Healthcare professionals say hospitals have a fixed cost in preparing for those types of situations and the equipment associated to treat those patients.
The tricky thing is that there's no transparency in what it actually costs the hospital to have that equipment.
So when someone comes into the emergency room for something simple like a fever that can be treated by a primary care facility, that actually drives up the cost.
Even though that it may not be life-threatening, the same people must take care of those people. So the people that come in for non-life-threatening bear an additional cost to do that because of the people and the place that that service is being provided.
Then there's the physicians that are treating you. Most of them are contracted. So while the hospital takes your insurance company, the doctors may not. Sarasota Memorial Hospital staff say there's no simple way to explain hospital billing. They said in a statement, quote, "It's a complex system that has evolved over several decades to adapt and comply with extensive government mandates and rules set by Medicare and Medicaid, as well as the ever-growing number of private insurers and health plans. The hospital went on to say that low-income patients who fall within 200% of federal poverty guidelines can receive free care, but that payment has to come from somewhere. So who fronts the bill for the uninsured or those who simply just don't pay their bills? According to USA Today, hospitals can try to compensate for those losses by charging other patients more. But they say it doesn't happen as often as you'd think. Instead, federal funding offsets some of those costs of treating the poor. Staff at Blake Medical Center in Manatee County simply cites that it's up to your insurance company what you pay. In a statement, they said, quote, "What our community pays for health care is dependent on each patient's type of medical coverage. We are committed to providing everyone with quality, cost-effective care. So maybe if you're lucky, like Bonnie Gottlieb, you'll come out of a 3-day stay with a $114 bill. But for most others, be prepared for a bill in the thousands."
I just consider myself very lucky that I have such good health insurance. And, you know, I would hope that other people would be as lucky as I am.
So how do you fight the rising healthcare costs? Unfortunately, there's not much you can really do. You can know which area hospitals take your insurance. That will help. And before you get any tests, treatments, or anything of the sort, ask how much they'll cost. Know what you're paying for. Also, avoid the emergency room at all costs. Use urgent care facilities or your local physicians when you can.
Jess, thank you. Coming up in the moment, the trapezoid, so stay with us.
The Wild Broadway series brings you Funny Girl. Fanny Bryce dreams of being famous and through sheer guts and determination becomes a star of the Ziegfeld Follies. Playing March 28th through April 15th, it's the songs and story that generations have grown to love. Call the Players Center at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. Don't rain on my parade. Come see Funny Girl.
You now have the power to prioritize your Facebook feed and get local news and information from the team you trust. Go to the ABC7 Sarasota page on Facebook. Give us a like, then click following and choose See First. That's it. Customize even more by choosing notifications. Choose breaking news, posts, live videos, anything you want to see in real time. Take control of your newsfeed and stay connected to what's happening in your community with ABC7 on Facebook.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
For more than 100 years, American Humane Association has been teaching kids to be kind to animals. Those in our homes, on the farms, on the silver screen, and wildlife conservation caring for the world's vanishing creatures. But we can't do it alone. Visit kindness100.org to find ways to teach kids how they can make a more caring, compassionate, and humane world for all of us.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Welcome back. If you want to know why our healthcare costs are skyrocketing, check this out. In 2016, the average cost of an emergency room visit was almost $2,000, up 31% over 4 years. Why? A number of reasons. Emergency room medicine is the most expensive form of healthcare, and ERs are seeing a greater number of people with severe medical problems. And the state-of-the-art technology available to ER docs is also incredibly expensive, like CT scans and MRIs. Joining us for more is our consumer watchdog, Jerry Zivick, and Marianne Harmson, a nationally recognized healthcare professional and the former executive vice president of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And we should also point out that we did invite Sarasota Memorial Hospital to take part in tonight's show. They couldn't make it. We don't want to single them out, but we do want to share a statement that we were given to us. Choosing an ER is the most costly place for care because people are paying not only for the tests and treatments administered during their visit, but also the overhead costs associated with a 24/7 access to specialized care that hospitals provide 365 days a year. Providing around-the-clock emergency care requires staffing in multiple areas, including the ER, laboratory, radiology, pharmacy, surgical services, general and intensive care units, plus on-call physician specialists in more than 20 specialties and subspecialties. And Marianne, let me start with you, because then you get the bill for $125. That's not going to bankrupt you, right, but you wonder why you're getting a $14,000, $15,000 bill.
Yes, and I think the most important thing is to understand that there's such a variety of reimbursement mechanisms that each hospital has a separate contract with each insurance carrier and each physician group. And most importantly, when something happens, you need to understand if you go to the urgent care, it will be one cost. If you need to go to an emergency room, you're going to be looking at many different disciplines. But sometimes those behaviors need to be thought of and can't be judged in advance because the circumstances don't dictate it.
This is an overly broad question, but I'll ask it anyway. Is this one of the drivers in terms of the increase, the rapid increase in our healthcare costs, because we keep going through this national debate about health insurance and why is it costing so much, and we're redoing, they want to redo Obamacare and so forth. Mm-hmm. But is this really the reason? Well,
it's part of the reason. Part of it is that there's an enormous amount of overhead that's associated with an emergency room. And some of that flows, it's part of the whole hospital system. So depending on how efficient that hospital system is, that will also help to generate what the costs will be that are associated with the procedures. But the federal government sets the ICD, the codes, the billing codes, ICD-10, CPT codes. It's important for people to understand that they do have recourse. I just saw 3 examples, one with a man who had a finger that he had lost and it was reattached, and 2 other examples where the costs were prohibitive that came out of emergency room situations, and they were able to negotiate them to substantially less.
But that is not something that most people feel like they're capable of or have the time to do. Right. Jerry, let me ask you this. I mean, we could talk about the whole process here, but what responsibility does the consumer have to make the right choice and knowing the difference between an emergency that you should go to the ER or where you should go to the 24-hour
Well, there's
walking
something
clinic?
Called the prudent layperson standard, that a prudent person would know that you should go to the 24-hour urgent care versus the ER, and that's very difficult. As Marianne said, you don't know if your child is laying there bleeding, you're not going to measure how much blood is coming out or not. But what I find actually SMH's statement disingenuous, and I disagree a little bit with the whole assessment of ERs. ERs, as Jess said in her story, they're run by another set of doctors. So this is all about competitive bidding. So you should be able to be in a situation where whoever you contract with is giving you a really good bid and you can control what they do in a much better sense.
All right, we are just getting warmed up and we'll have much more on the rising cost of emergency care right after we check the first low weather, so stay with us.
Set your course for a waterfront lifestyle on Florida's last private island. Discover One Particular Harbor by Margaritaville. Nearby sugar sand beaches are as easy to find as the warm Florida sunshine. Waterfront residences from the high 400s overlook beautiful Anna Maria Sound. And a new marina with direct access to the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, incredible savings on move-in ready homes. Come tour designer models today. Visit ophmintousa.com now.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
I took my first handful of pills, and that's when all my priorities seemed to change.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes.
He just assumed that they would have medication.
He'd go in their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
I wish I knew really what these prescription pills were.
We were so naive about the whole drug thing.
These are all synthetic forms of heroin.
Keep your medication locked up because you'll never notice that a pill is gone.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish!
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Want the latest weather and traffic conditions wherever you go? Introducing ABC7's revolutionary new First Alert weather app. With our state-of-the-art new weather app, you get up-to-the-minute weather alerts, interactive radar maps, current conditions, 10-day forecasts, real-time traffic maps, and weather video from ABC7, all at your fingertips. And it's free. Just search Suncoast WX in the App Store and download onto all your devices today. Sponsored by Mr. Sparky.
Our conversation on rising emergency room costs continues right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. I'll tell you, we had a day today similar to what we see in the summer, although the heat wasn't there as it normally is. And we also had not enough moisture, but the sea breeze definitely was summer-like as it developed due to temperatures in the mid-80s here in places like Hardee and DeSoto counties. And along the coast, the water temperature now in the mid-70s. That deficit there causes the warmer air to rise and then fill in with that sea breeze front. We saw some showers developing. Some of them were pretty heavy, too, well east of I-75, nothing along the coast. Cooler temperatures near the coast right now, 75 degrees there, into the upper 70s in Orlando. But notice temperatures still into the low 80s to mid-80s from Lake Placid, Avon Park, Wauchula at 81 degrees. There's the water temperature now taken at the end of the Venice Pier, 75 degrees. Cortez at 72. It's Pleasant and Inglewood at 73. Northport, pretty much the same story. And a beautiful day out on the beaches today. Just gorgeous blue skies there. Some high cirrus clouds every once in a while moving in. Calm conditions out on the waters and looks to be a gorgeous sunset tonight. Well, the Futurecast is showing a little bit of fog forming once these showers die out in the central portion of the state. We'll see these showers die out and then some fog around beginning at 1 a.m. It should burn off by 9 o'clock. It'll be patchy. Not everyone's going to get the fog, but then we'll start off with another gorgeous day tomorrow. Lots of sunshine around, temperatures topping out right around 80 degrees. The beaches will be in the mid-70s there. Once in a while, we'll see a few showers flaring up on the sea breeze front in the late afternoon and evening, and then an approaching cold front starts to move in toward the Panhandle. That comes Wednesday midday. It'll be in our neck of the woods, looks like late Wednesday and into early Thursday morning. It's not going to do a whole lot. You'll notice this line of showers kind of weakens and falls apart before it reaches us. And that's pretty much the story during this time of year. The fronts don't have a lot of push to get through. Right now, Arcadia, just southwest of Arcadia, shower. There's some pretty heavy weather inland, south of Haines City. We had some big storms near I-75 and State Road, again, 64 earlier. That has since moved on. Some showers there near Arcadia moving off toward the northwest, but nothing going on here. And it will stay that way. Maybe some debris clouds left over from the showers that were around earlier, heading toward the coast late tonight. But the evening planner looks to be pretty warm. 70 degrees by 11 o'clock. Temperatures will be above seasonal averages for lows tonight into the mid to upper 60s. We'll see that patchy fog around, and then a cold front arrives late Wednesday, bringing with it a very slight chance for showers along the coast now, as that front kind of falls apart before it reaches us. And then another front is due to arrive on Sunday. That, too, is going to be a weak cold front, but will change things just a little bit with an increase in clouds on Sunday midday. 75 right now, and the dew point 66. That's up there. Winds out of the west-northwest at 9, and the pressure is still pretty high, 30.01 inches. The high today was 1 degree above average at 80 degrees. This morning's low was 65, and looks as though we'll see a little bit of fog. As I mentioned, this is the wind and fog forecast showing up as the orange and yellow right there. It'll be patchy. It won't be as widespread as this map is depicting in computer forecast model, but there will be some around, especially where it rained a little bit inland today. Tomorrow's forecast, once the fog burns off, we'll see mostly sunny skies throughout the day. Temperatures warming to near 80 degrees, which is fairly close to typical temperatures. And then we had the snowstorm yesterday, moved through parts of the Northeast, and even early this morning some snow around New York and also right there near New Jersey. And then another snowstorm developing. This one is already causing problems with winter storm advisories into, again, North Dakota and into Montana, also into Wyoming. And then we have winter storm warnings and watches in effect for Minnesota, Wisconsin, stretching all the way over to Michigan now. So some of those snowbirds that left early are going to run into some snow. And temperatures currently across the U.S. into the 70s in Denver, very warm there, but Billings at 18, 70 now again in Nashville. Here's the forecast then for boaters tomorrow. Southeast winds at 10 knots. They turn to the south, and seas will be less than 2 feet with a light chop on the bays and inland waters, so it looks to be pretty mild out there for boaters. The extended forecast, some patchy fog around tomorrow, but a nice day. The low temperatures on both tomorrow morning and Wednesday, upper 60s, will be a little bit cooler just because of that cold front. Won't do a whole lot in terms of bringing our highs down, though highs will stay right around 80 degrees right through the weekend. Al will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
Meet Blue. Blue's not feeling well. The prescription? Generic medication. Blue wonders, do they really work as well as name brands? Yes, generics and name brand medications do work the same. Even though they may look different, generics have the same key ingredients. FDA approval is equally rigorous for generics to make sure they're as safe and effective as name brands. And Blue even saves some green, making him a little less, well, blue. Talk to your doctor about generics and visit fda.gov/generic drugs.
My name is Julius. I have cerebral palsy. I work for Farmer Jeffy Weising Law Firm. I do a lot of data entry and scanning documents. I want to increase my working experience to make the company much better. At the end of the day, it's good to think of the day's work and to think about what I have accomplished.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to abilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
Nearly all sea turtles are classified as endangered, and it's all of our responsibility to help them thrive. I'm Stephanie Roberts on Suncoast View. Moat Marine joins us to remind us how to keep sea turtles safe during nesting season. Big Cat Habitat will bring some exotic friends for us to meet. Plus, Urbanite Theater's provocative new feminist play, and we preview the Whiskey Obsession Festival in the kitchen.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
All right, crew, let's get started. Sure.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
Welcome back. We're talking about rising emergency room costs, and joining us for more is our own consumer watchdog, Jerry Zivick, and Marianne Harmson, a nationally recognized healthcare professional and former executive vice president of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. But Jerry, let me start with you. We have a lot to get through here, but you are particularly concerned in terms of, because we're seeing such a drastic increase in emergency room costs over the years, that the insurance companies are thinking about putting more of an onus on us in terms of deciding whether or not we need to go to an emergency room.
Sure, there's an insurance company out there that has actually told their insureds that they will not pay if you present it in ER and it's not an ER problem. They're not going to pay for you. So I actually was thinking about, what do you do? I would actually ask the ER when you present, is this an ER problem? Because if a doctor's telling you or the hospital is telling you, yes, you need to stay at the ER, then at least you have some sort of rationale.
Right. You would think some of these issues are pretty simple. You know, if you have a bad cold, not an ER problem. But if your kid is desperately sick or they're bleeding or so forth, we're talking about crises for people. How can you make that judgment like that?
Well, it's near impossible, and that's what's really unfair about this insurance company doing this. I talked about the prudent layperson standard, but when your kid is sick, or your spouse or a loved one of some sort, you want to get them what's perceived to be the very best, and you're going to go to the emergency room. And what you have to do, though, I think you have to plan ahead what I'm going to do in terms of if there's an emergency.
Well, I'd just like to say it's very hard to plan ahead, especially with children, because anything can happen at any moment. We face an incredible situation because one of the things you said before, Jerry, was the fact that a particular insurance company may try to put the onus of the responsibility at the time of incident on a particular insured. That's almost incredibly hard and difficult to believe that that would even be acceptable under the law. This goes back to malpractice. When, in the 1960s, when no fault came in under auto insurance, the next thing we saw was a decrease in those lawsuits and an increase in medical malpractice. So the medical malpractice liability and that tort reform started to create increased margins that had to be placed on costs. And that is the reason why you mentioned before, you said some of the hospitals have physicians who are not even employed by them. They contract with them separately. Well, because then they have less liability, and that liability has to be carried by the physicians group.
I'm going to suggest to you that that's a bit of a misnomer, that insurance companies use this as an excuse, malpractice, to raise costs. Certainly it's a factor, but when you look around the world, you don't see big, tall buildings named after doctors or lawyers. They're named after insurance companies.
And in some ways, I'm agreeing with you. I'm simply giving you the history of how we got from point A to point B.
What about the other costs that drive this basically crisis in the cost of emergency room care, and that is the uninsured? I mean, we keep, as I mentioned earlier, we keep going through this national debate about Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, and whether or not the majority of people who have employer-based insurance should have to pay for people who don't. But there's still a substantial amount of people who are uninsured who wind up in the emergency room, which we laid out is the most costly form of insurance.
Yes, and so it's referred to as uncompensated care. The percentage of uncompensated care in this country by hospital system varies, but it is an enormous amount of money. Most people don't understand that under the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, the subsidies that were put in place so that some people could purchase insurance are going away. When they go away, those people will not have insurance again, and they'll be back, and instead of using perhaps a primary care physician that they had chosen, they are now going to be going to the emergency rooms, and we're going to see more uncompensated care.
Let me ask another controversial question, because I did this story when I worked up north in Connecticut, and that is the amount of money that hospitals wind up spending for undocumented residents. I did the story at Danbury Hospital one year, $2 million. So on one hand, in our national debate, we want to make sure those undocumented residents don't have Obamacare or anything like that. On the other hand, we're paying those costs if their kid is sick and winds up in the emergency room.
And we're facing a dilemma in this country because as a country, we say everyone should at least have access to care. But on the other hand, we don't have everybody contributing to the system. So then eventually there's the tipping point. And Jerry and I were talking about this before. We've actually passed the tipping point. So we have multiple situations which actually would lend themselves to future discussions because it's a very complicated matter.
Jerry, I've heard analysts say, look, bottom line is healthcare costs and emergency healthcare costs, there is no good plan out there. This is something that costs the healthcare system a lot of money. But again, from the consumer point of view, and this is complicated, we all live very busy lives, but what should a family do in terms of preparing for that day that they have an unanticipated emergency medical need?
Well, I really believe, even though it's hard to react appropriately in emergency, but I really believe right after the show, everybody should sit down with their insurance policies and review them and see what's covered and what isn't covered. Even if you've reviewed your policy when you first got it, 8 months later, do you really remember what's covered or what's not covered? And you have to look at even an ambulance. How, you know, do you want to use an ambulance, or do you want to maybe use an Uber or something?
Well, let me ask you this, because you know, if you take that woman who was in our story,
yes.
You know, the cost was over $100,000. Yes. Her part of the bill was $100. Mm-hmm. So where is that?
Why is that covered that
yes.
way? I would tell you that the procedure that she described is an electronic stimulation that is done to put a heart back into rhythm. So the situation that she described, when a heart is not in rhythm, it can lead to a massive heart attack. So she was in an imminent danger. So that's why the insurance company, then when they saw what happened in the emergency room, why they did what they did, then they paid it as if she was admitted into the, well, she did say she spent 3 days in the hospital. She may not have left the emergency room because sometimes they don't have beds upstairs and they keep them in the emergency room bed. But that is the reason why that one was paid to the extent that it was.
All right, we have to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Northland Outdoors is about so much more than the biggest fish or the hottest hunting spots. All across the Northland, there are amazing people with incredible stories to tell. We're going to find those stories and share them with everyone. Join us each and every week as we explore the Northland and experience some of the most exciting outdoor adventures in the country right here in our own backyard. This is Northland Outdoors.
So I kind of grew up all across the country. I come from 5 generations of military men. My dad is still active duty. My grandpa is retired Marines. I like going for runs with my dog. I love, taking her out to the dog beach over in Venice. There are so many things here to do on the Suncoast. My goal every day when I come into work at ABC7 is to tell your stories, give you that major local news and those details that you really care about. I'm Jacqueline Matter and I'm here for you.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
When it comes to drinking, what do you think moderation is? The U.S. Dietary Guidelines define moderation as up to 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 drinks a day for men. So what's a drink? The guidelines say a drink equals 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a cocktail with 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. Each contains the same amount of alcohol. Like to learn more? Visit drinkinmoderation.org.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. And Jerry, let me put it to you this way. Why should anybody care if your out-of-pocket cost on a $100,000 emergency room bill is only $100? One could say, hey, listen, I got out of it pretty good.
Because it's still not $100. The story we had here, so she has Medicare and no doubt she has supplemental insurance. So you're still paying for that. So it's not $100, it's $100 plus your insurance. And if medical care keeps on going up and up and up, the cost of insurance will go up. The cost of Medicare goes up every year. The cost of the supplemental policies go up. And this is a never-ending cycle. And as we heard here, it's a situation, what Marianne said, there's a tipping point. And we're way past the tipping point. And what if you're just not very, if you're just a person that's working on even a $70,000, $80,000 a year job, it's the percent of your take-home income that you're spending on health care. That's the real problem.
And Marianne, it just so happens that you are starting a new venture.
Yes.
in order to help people understand and deal with this.
Yes, it's called Exigent Key, Exigent means something that requires immediate attention, and clearly healthcare in America requires immediate attention. We have different systems. We have Geisinger, we have Kaiser Permanente. We have some systems that do things better than others, and those are the ones we have to take a look at and see how they're approaching. You cannot look at emergency room charges or hospital charges in a vacuum. You have to look at the whole spectrum, and yes, Jerry, you're absolutely right. The cost of inflation, the cost of technology, the cost of pharmaceuticals continues to rise. So this new company is going to help solve the healthcare puzzle community by community.
Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank
you both. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about Friday's show on the Week in Washington. President Trump fired his VA Secretary David Shulkin and replaced him with White House Dr. Ronnie Jackson. One of Trump's longest serving aides, Hope Hicks, worked her last day at the White House Communications Director. So we went to Facebook to hear what some of you had to say about all the turnover in Washington. Robert says, as a veteran, the thought of privatizing the VA really concerns me. Ann says, this has all gotten so crazy on both sides of the aisle that I have walked out of the circus. And Noko says, we're doomed. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. Our consumer watchdog, Jerry Zivick, and Marianne Harmson, a nationally recognized healthcare professional and former executive vice president of Blue Cross Blue Shield. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus President Trump blaming Democrats for not getting a deal done for the Dreamers.
Since 1972, Sleep King has provided quality mattresses and accessories at the best discounted prices available. Top brands like Simmons, Sealy, Serta, Beautyrest, iComfort, and more. With available free delivery, free financing, and free setup and removal. For a comfortable night's sleep with same-day delivery, even if we have to carry it on our backs. Trust Sleep King of Sarasota. Buy it today, sleep on it tonight.
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it. Colon and rectal cancers are the second leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the U.S. Colon cancer is preventable. Know the risk factors and make sure to get screened. There are simple, take-home options available. Take control of your health. Screening for colon cancer isn't embarrassing. It can be life-saving. To find out more about your options, visit fightcrc.org.
Selfless service is the principle that guides Army National Guard soldiers to be ready whenever disaster strikes. They have a stake in the well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times. Selfless service. It's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Thanks, Alan. Back from spring break, and I enjoyed the great weather out there. Only had really one bad day, but for the most part, beautiful out there today. Wish I could have extended it a little longer. Anna Maria webcam showing pretty nice there in Bimini Bay. Just flat, calm conditions, lots of sunshine, and temperatures warming today. Along the coast anyway, in the mid to upper 70s. Inland areas, mid 80s. Our forecast tonight does call for the inland showers to wind down here. Some of the debris cloudiness heading in our general direction. We're still going to see partly cloudy skies. A little bit of fog forming due to the light winds, high pressure just off the east coast, and just enough moisture from the rain earlier to allow for some patchy fog to form on tonight. Now, we have this easterly to southeasterly wind flow out ahead of this cold front. It's going to really wear it down. It's going to provide some moisture, some big storms over the lower Mississippi Valley, looks like on Tuesday and into Wednesday noon. Looks like some big storms near the Panhandle, but notice what happens to this front. It weakens as it gets close to us on Wednesday, late afternoon and evening, and pretty much falls apart. I'm going to keep a very slight chance for a brief shower in the mix late Wednesday. Current radar picture showing those heavier storms now, which developed along the sea breeze front. And that was rather active, especially inland today. Not very big storms in terms of lightning. They're just not that high in the atmosphere to really create a lot of lightning with it. But some very heavy rainfall around State Road 27, stretching up to Orlando. And it looks like down south, even some bigger storms still due to the lake breeze and the Gulf breeze down to our south. One lone shower near Arcadia and a little bit of light rain just to the west of Sebring at this time. Temperatures currently into the mid-70s to lower 70s right near the coast. Inland areas still fairly warm, 81 in Lake Placid, 82 in Sebring, Avon Park at 82. But notice the cooler readings due to that sea breeze, which has made its way all the way inland. Mayaca City had some rainfall earlier today, just to the southwest of Duet. Some heavier rainfall fell there as well. Well, currently it's 75 degrees and the dew point 66. Winds are out of the west-northwest. They're at 9 miles an hour. Those winds will let up and then eventually turn more easterly overnight. Temperatures currently 70 at Holmes Beach, 72 at Whitney Beach, 2 degrees warmer in Braden now. Waterleaf at 76 degrees and Palm Air at 76. Lake Sarasota, you're the same. Laurel Oak just 1 degree cooler, and in Venice it's now 73 degrees, 5 degrees warmer in Northport. And again, that's a result of the influence of the Gulf of Mexico, which the water temperature now at 75. So our forecast tomorrow, a little bit of patchy fog to start things off, but then we'll warm up to 80 degrees, and it'll stay there pretty much right through the day. So another gorgeous day expected. As I mentioned, a little patchy fog moving on through. Well, we had a quick hitter this morning bringing some snowfall into New Jersey, New York, and moving off to the east. Another one is on the way, a pretty big storm over the northern plains right now. There's that snow I mentioned, pretty brief, but some pretty big squalls moving through Philadelphia into New Jersey, northern sections of New Jersey at least, and into Manhattan. Boy, some heavy snowfall there. Vermont, New Hampshire escaping that one, but this one maybe not so much. This is a snowstorm which is developing, and a lot of winter weather advisories are in effect. You can see that from northern Michigan all the way through Wisconsin, Minnesota, at least the southern portion. Those are winter storm warnings in effect, and a winter storm watch is in effect for South Dakota, stretching all the way over into Montana tonight. So winter not quite over yet, and this is all heading basically to the east. It's the same snowstorm, which is going to bring us that weak cold front. It's so far north, though, it's not going to have a big push of cold air our way. Look at the big difference in temperatures. It's 19 in Minot, 70 now in Denver, 33 in Kansas City, 41 there tomorrow, and Detroit now expected to be at 42 for a high tomorrow. Toronto at 39. A lot of folks heading back north. You're going to see that colder air settling on in for a little while. Tuesday, southeast winds at 10 knots. We'll have a light chop on the bays and inland waters. Here's the extended forecast. Not a lot of change with the front. A little bit of patchy fog tomorrow. The front moves in late Wednesday, cooling things down 4 or 5 degrees to start things off on Thursday morning. Stays that way. Pretty seasonal, looks like, right through the weekend with lots of sunshine in the mix. Primetime headlines with Alan is up next. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
About every 3 minutes in America, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. Light the Night brings together survivors and supporters to bring light to the darkness of cancer and to help fund life-saving research. Our goal is a world without blood cancers, and we're lighting the path to cures. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. Help defeat the darkness of cancer. Join Light the Night today.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now.
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live.
I live.
She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
Here's today's job of the day. ABC7 is seeking a part-time digital media producer to write and post fresh, engaging content to our website. Excellent writing skills and newsroom experience required. Visit mysuncoast.com/job-of-the-day to apply.
Checking primetime headlines this morning, the White House celebrating the 140th Easter egg roll, but the president was busy tweeting and talking throughout Easter Sunday and today with a different message, saying DACA is dead and blaming Democrats for not having a deal to help the hundreds of thousands of dreamers. ABC's Serena Marshall has the latest from Washington.
Children surrounding him, the Easter Bunny on hand, President Trump celebrating Easter at the White House with a message for dreamers.
They had this great opportunity. The Democrats have really let them down. It's a shame. And now people are taking advantage of DACA, and that's a shame.
But before greeting visitors for the 140th egg roll, Mr. Trump was on Twitter, writing about caravans of people traveling through Mexico and calling on Congress to act. He claimed DACA is dead because of Democrats, and now everyone wants to get onto the DACA bandwagon. But the president was the one who ended DACA, the program for undocumented children brought to the U.S., and he is the one who rejected a Democratic deal that would have fully funded his $25 billion border wall in exchange for a pathway to citizenship for dreamers. During that bipartisan meeting earlier this year, the president said any deal should be one of love.
If they come to me with things that I'm not in love with, I'm going to do it.
But when the Senate came close, he threatened a veto. The Twitter tirade began on Easter, about an hour after this Fox and Friends segment about migrants traveling north from Central America.
Because they're breaking Mexican laws as well.
The semi-annual protest march takes those seeking political asylum to an official U.S. border entry point, and none of them would qualify for DACA, as applicants must have been brought to the U.S. before they turned 16 and have been living here since 2007. Those tweets reiterated as he walked into Easter service.
As part of that tweet storm, the president also threatened NAFTA as trade negotiations with Mexico continue. Serena Marshall, ABC News, Washington.
President Trump put tariffs on China. Now China is lowering the boom on us. The Chinese government says tariffs on about $3 billion worth of U.S. imports will go into effect today, impacting roughly 128 products in all. The sanctions were the first proposed over a week ago and are in response to President Trump's tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum. China plans to impose tariffs on 15% on items like fruits, nuts, wine, and steel pipes, and tariffs of 25% on items like pork and recycled aluminum. That's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Good night.